For years, Kirk Frost and Rasheeda had been the unshakable power couple of love and hip-hop. Atlanta, a team that weathered every scandal, rumor, and betrayal thrown their way until now. Out of nowhere, whispers turned into headlines when news broke that the pair were officially calling it quits, not just as husband and wife, but as reality TV royalty. Fans were blindsided, the industry was stunned, and insiders hinted that this wasn't some quiet, mutual decision. Something explosive had gone down behind the scenes. The timing felt too sudden, too sharp, like a cut no one saw coming. Producers were scrambling to control the narrative, but it was already out of their hands. The moment the story leaked, social media ignited with disbelief and speculation. Was this really the end of Kirk and Rasheeda's empire, or just another publicity stunt gone wrong? Sources close to the couple claimed the tension had been brewing for months, with arguments getting louder, trust breaking faster, and their once solid partnership starting to fracture under the pressure of fame. This wasn't just about love anymore. This was about betrayal, business, and a secret that pushed their relationship past the point of no return. What had started as an empire built on loyalty and ambition was now collapsing under the weight of resentment and regret. The people closest to them knew this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment split. There was a breaking point, and something had clearly crossed the line. Fans who had followed their journey from struggle to success were heartbroken, posting old clips of their happiest moments and begging them to reconcile. But deep down, everyone sensed it. This time felt final. And as the shock settled in, one burning question echoed through every timeline and gossip blog. What could possibly make Kirk and Rasheeda throw away everything they had built together on screen and off? Whatever it wasn't small. The silence from both sides only fueled the fire, and the whispers were growing louder by the hour. Everyone wanted answers, but the truth, as it would soon turn out, was far messier than anyone expected, and it was only a matter of time before the first real cracks started to show, leading to the revelations that would change everything. It didn't happen overnight. Long before the headlines exploded, fans had already started to sense that something was off between Kirk and Rasheeda. It began subtly, a missing smile here, a cold look there, tiny details that only loyal viewers would notice. The chemistry that once made them reality TV's most admired couple was fading fast. On social media, they weren't posting together anymore. The usual playful captions were replaced with cryptic quotes about trust, loyalty, and walking away from what no longer serves you. For a couple that had built their brand on unity, the silence spoke volumes. The streets of Atlanta's entertainment scene began buzzing with whispers. People close to production claimed that Rasheeda had been keeping her distance on set, showing up alone and leaving as soon as filming wrapped. Kirk, meanwhile, was described as distracted, his usual confident demeanor replaced by tension and frustration. When fans noticed that the two hadn't been spotted together in public for weeks, rumors took on a life of their own. Was this another fight they'd eventually patch up? Or was the foundation truly cracking this time? Then came the first real clue. Rasheeda appeared at an event without her wedding ring. Cameras caught it instantly, and within hours, the internet went wild. Gossip blogs ran with headlines like, "Trouble in the Frost Empire?" and "Rasheeda steps out solo, what does it mean?" Kirk stayed silent, choosing not to address the speculation, but that silence only made things worse. Every small move they made was dissected by fans, every public appearance analyzed like evidence in a scandal. Even castmates started dropping hints during interviews, suggesting that things weren't the same between them anymore. Behind the scenes, tension was mounting. Arguments that once stayed private were now spilling into production days, forcing producers to reschedule scenes and edit around their drama. Insiders said the energy on set had changed. The couple that once brought fire to the screen now brought discomfort to everyone around them. Still, no one knew exactly what was wrong. The love, the trust, the partnership, something was gone. And as much as fans wanted to believe this was just another rough patch, it was becoming clear that this time, the damage might be permanent. Little did anyone know, those quiet signs were only the beginning. The real explosion, the moment that would turn whispers into headlines, was just around the corner. It all came crashing down one unforgettable night, the night everything between Kirk and Rasheeda changed for good. VH1 executives had organized a private event, a closed-door celebration meant to honor the show's top cast members. Cameras weren't rolling, but what went down that evening would have made the most explosive reality TV episode in history. The tension between Kirk and Rasheeda was already heavy enough to cut through the air. Insiders say Kirk had been drinking, trying to play it cool, while Rasheeda kept her distance, her expression unreadable, but her silence louder than any argument. No one expected what came next. In the middle of polite conversations and industry laughter, Rasheeda's voice suddenly cut through the noise, sharp, cold, and deliberate. "You really think I don't know what you've been doing behind my back?" The room went silent. Kirk froze, his smirk faltering. A nervous laugh slipped out, but it only made things worse. "What are you talking about?" he muttered, trying to brush it off, but everyone could see it, that flicker of guilt, that panic behind his eyes. Rasheeda wasn't bluffing, and the people in that room could feel it. Without another word, she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and with a few taps, hit play. Gasps echoed as a video began to play on her screen. Whatever it showed, it was enough to make people cover their mouths in disbelief. Kirk's face went pale. His body language told the whole story. He was caught. "I told you, Kirk," Rasheeda said quietly, her voice shaking with restrained fury. "I told you if you ever embarrassed me like this again, it was over." The words hit like thunder. The air in the room thickened as whispers spread like wildfire. No one knew exactly what the footage contained. Some claimed it showed Kirk getting too close to another woman from the show. Others believed it exposed a shady business deal gone wrong involving money and contracts. Whatever it was bad. Kirk tried to speak, reaching for her arm in desperation, but Rasheeda pulled back instantly, her expression hardened. "Don't touch me," she snapped, her voice trembling with emotion. "I should have left you years ago." Every eye in the room was on them, and even the producers, who were used to chaos, didn't know how to react. Kirk looked completely exposed, humiliated, cornered, and powerless. For the first time, the man who always managed to twist every scandal in his favor had no words. No excuses, and no control. Producers quickly stepped in, trying to de-escalate the situation, but the damage was already done. Rasheeda didn't stick around to argue. She turned and walked straight out of the event, her heels echoing through the hallway like the final notes of a song that had just ended. The silence that followed was haunting. Kirk stood there, motionless, his reputation unraveling in real time. That night was the breaking point. It wasn't about the cameras, the contracts, or even the show anymore. It was personal, raw, and final. Word spread within hours. By morning, everyone in production had heard about the confrontation. Calls were flying between network executives, PR teams were panicking, and fans online were piecing together fragments of rumors trying to figure out what had gone down. What started as a celebration had turned into a scandal that would shake love and hip-hop, Atlanta to its core. And for Kirk and Rasheeda, there was no going back. That fateful night didn't just end a marriage, it marked the beginning of a public unraveling that neither of them could control. The fallout was coming, and it would be brutal. Coming, and it would be brutal. By sunrise, the entire Love and Hip Hop Atlanta circle was buzzing with chaos. The confrontation between Kirk and Rasheeda had spread like wildfire, and by the time the first blogs caught wind of it, the story had already spiraled far beyond control. Fans woke up to a storm of speculation snippets of alleged video clips, cryptic tweets from castmates, and vague sources close to production posts that only fueled the fire. Rasheeda had gone completely silent on social media, deleting recent posts that featured Kirk, while Kirk tried to maintain an appearance of calm, posting a quote about growth through pain that only made things worse. Everyone wanted to know what really happened that night, and the lack of answers turned the mystery into a frenzy. Production insiders revealed that VH1 was in full damage control mode, ordering everyone to stay quiet until a statement could be crafted. But it was too late. The internet was already running its own version of the truth. Some claimed the video Rasheeda played showed Kirk with another woman. Others said it exposed something deeper: financial deceit, secret deals, or even betrayal within their joint businesses. The uncertainty made the story explode even further, with fans choosing sides faster than ever. Team Rasheeda trended instantly, with thousands of fans flooding her old posts with messages of support, while others accused Kirk of never truly changing after his past scandals. Behind the scenes, Rasheeda reportedly moved out of their shared home and cut off all communication, except through management. Insiders described her as focused, calm but done. Kirk, on the other hand, was said to be desperately trying to reach her, claiming the situation had been misunderstood, though no one seemed to believe it. The network faced its own dilemma: exploit the drama for ratings or protect two of its longest-running stars from complete public breakdown. As the tension grew, the couple's friends found themselves divided. Some sided with Rasheeda, saying they had warned her for years that this day would come, while others urged her to forgive, citing how much they had built together. But this time, Rasheeda didn't look back. Her silence was louder than any statement, and it carried the weight of finality. Paparazzi photos soon surfaced showing her without her ring, stepping into her boutique with a look of fierce determination. The woman who once fought to hold her marriage together now seemed ready to fight for herself. Kirk, meanwhile, looked increasingly isolated, appearing withdrawn in public and avoiding interviews altogether. The world could sense it. The empire was crumbling. The love story that had once inspired fans had turned into a headline of heartbreak, betrayal, and silence. And deep down, everyone knew this was just the start of a much bigger unraveling. It didn't take long for the truth to surface, and when it did, it hit harder than anyone expected. A week after the explosive confrontation, a leaked clip began circulating online, allegedly showing Kirk in a compromising situation with a woman who wasn't Rasheeda. The video was grainy, shot in what looked like a backstage area or private lounge, but the faces were unmistakable. Within hours, gossip blogs had frozen the frames, circled the details, and confirmed what fans already suspected. The betrayal was real. Social media went into a meltdown. After all these years, she stood by him through everything. Rasheeda deserves better. The comments flooded in, painting Kirk as the villain of the decade. But this time the story had another layer. Insiders revealed that the woman in the clip wasn't just anyone she was rumored to be connected to the show, someone who had been around the cast before. That revelation made everything 10 times worse, suggesting not just infidelity, but a potential breach of trust within their professional circle. Suddenly, it wasn't just a marriage scandal, it was a production nightmare. VH1 executives were forced into crisis meetings, scrambling to contain the damage before it bled into upcoming episodes. Meanwhile, Rasheeda stayed silent, but her actions spoke volumes. She unfollowed Kirk on every platform, removed all traces of him from her business pages, and made her first public appearance alone, dressed in black with a calm yet unshakable energy that screamed closure. Fans called it her revenge soft launch, while media outlets labeled it her rebirth. Kirk, however, went on defense, posting a lengthy message about private matters being weaponized and urging people to get the full story. But by then, it was too late. The internet had made up its mind. The betrayal narrative was locked in, and every attempt Kirk made to explain only deepened the backlash. Industry insiders claimed that Rasheeda had already begun consulting her legal team, not just for separation, but for restructuring their business assets, which had long been tied together. Their joint ventures, from boutiques to brand endorsements, suddenly found themselves under review, with sponsors quietly pulling back until the dust settled. Friends close to Rasheeda described her as hurt but free, saying she'd finally realized that no amount of love could fix a cycle of deceit. Meanwhile, the woman allegedly involved in the video went into hiding, shutting down her social accounts as fans flooded her with insults and threats. The chaos had spiraled into something even the network couldn't spin. The truth was out, and there was no coming back from it. What had started as whispers of trouble was now an undeniable scandal that redefined both of their legacies. For Rasheeda, it became the breaking point that would transform her image from loyal wife to empowered survivor. For Kirk, it was the scandal that erased years of redemption in a single clip. And as the dust began to settle, everyone was left wondering the same thing if this was the truth the public saw. What other secrets had been buried all along? In the weeks following the leak, Rasheeda transformed silence into her greatest weapon. While the world dissected her marriage, she chose not to speak a single word about the scandal, not a statement, not a post, not even a comment slip. Instead, she let her actions narrate her story. She threw herself into work, showing up at her boutique, pressed, greeting customers with her signature smile, and appearing in public with a calm confidence that stunned everyone who expected a meltdown. Those close to her said she was laser-focused, no breakdowns, no outbursts, just quiet rebuilding. Fans noticed the shift immediately. Gone was the woman constantly defending her marriage on reality TV. In her place stood someone reborn, guarded yet glowing with newfound purpose. Within days, Rasheeda's brand saw a surge in support. Women flooded her comment sections, praising her strength and independence, turning her into a symbol of resilience. "She's showing us how to move on with class," one fan wrote, capturing the mood perfectly. While Kirk tried to reach out privately, insiders claimed Rasheeda ignored every attempt. She had finally drawn the line, and this time it wasn't for show. Even producers couldn't convince her to film reconciliation scenes or discuss the issue on camera. She made it clear that her healing wasn't for ratings. Instead, Rasheeda started posting subtle messages through her work. New clothing drops titled "Unbreakable," motivational captions about knowing your worth, and collaborations with empowerment brands that aligned with her new direction. Her silence became louder than any interview could ever be. Meanwhile, the industry began to rally around her. Celebrities, influencers, and fellow cast members reached out in support, sharing her posts and praising her strength. Her boutique events sold out, her social following surged, and she began being seen as more than Kirk's wife. She was finally recognized as a brand, a businesswoman, and a woman who had chosen self-respect over saving face. On the other hand, Kirk's absence was just as loud. Once a regular on social media, he went completely dark, avoiding interviews and public appearances altogether. Insiders said he was struggling to come to terms with the fallout both personally and financially. The empire he had built with Rasheeda was slipping through his fingers, and for the first time, there was no one left to defend him. Rasheeda's silence had done what years of confrontation never could. It dismantled his power. And as she quietly rebuilt her life from the ashes of betrayal, one thing became crystal clear. Rasheeda wasn't just surviving the scandal, she was rewriting the narrative, piece by piece, on her own terms. While Rasheeda's silence turned her into a symbol of grace and resilience, Kirk's world began to collapse in real time. The scandal had stripped him of credibility, and his attempts to salvage his image only made things worse. Every time he spoke, fans tore apart his words, accusing him of manipulation and deflection. His usual charm, once enough to smooth over controversy, now fell flat against the weight of undeniable evidence. Endorsements quietly disappeared, brand partnerships ended without explanation, and longtime business associates began distancing themselves. Even his bar and entertainment ventures, once booming under the Frost name, saw a decline in traffic as customers publicly vowed to stand with Rasheeda. For a man who had built his persona on control, the unraveling was painful to watch. Sources close to Kirk described him as isolated, frustrated, and paranoid, convinced that people inside the production team had betrayed him by leaking the video. Some claimed he had even hired a private investigator to trace the leak, desperate to find someone to blame, but the damage was far beyond repair. His reputation wasn't just tainted, it was toxic. Meanwhile, fans flooded his comments with harsh reminders of his past mistakes, calling this karma for the years Rasheeda endured humiliation on camera. Kirk had survived scandals before, but this one hit differently this time. Rasheeda wasn't standing beside him to help rebuild. She wasn't speaking for him, defending him, or forgiving him. She had vanished from his story completely, leaving him to face the fallout alone. That absence became the ultimate punishment. For weeks, Kirk tried reaching out, sending gifts, apologetic messages, and mutual friends to mediate, but Rasheeda remained unmoved. Insiders said she had blocked him on everything, refusing even to engage in arguments. "It's not anger anymore," one source said. "She's just done." The once powerful couple who had defined loyalty on Love and Hip Hop were now living separate realities. Rasheeda, glowing and rebuilding. Kirk, fading into the background. The contrast was brutal. Public sympathy swung entirely in Rasheeda's favor, while Kirk became the face of betrayal and downfall. Even the network began editing him differently. His appearances on upcoming episodes were reportedly minimized, his confessionals cut short, and his storyline reduced to background noise. It was as if the show itself was moving on without him. For a man who had fought for relevance and authority for years, the silence from the cameras hurt the most. Kirk had always believed he could talk his way out of any situation, but this time, words had no power. His empire, his marriage, and his public image had all disintegrated before his eyes. Alone in a storm of his own making, Kirk faced a reality he could no longer control. Rasheeda had won not through revenge or exposure, but through silence and dignity. And as the world rallied behind her, his story became a warning, a reminder that sometimes, losing the person who always forgave you means losing everything. As weeks turned into months, the public narrative around Kirk and Rasheeda shifted from shock to acceptance, the kind that comes when everyone realizes the fairy tale is officially over. What once dominated headlines had now become part of pop culture history, replayed through viral clips and fan edits set to break up anthems. Rasheeda's quiet strength continued to earn her praise, turning her into an unexpected figure of empowerment. Talk shows, podcasts, and lifestyle magazines began referencing her as an example of walking away with grace. She didn't chase pity or revenge. She simply glowed up and the world noticed. Her boutique expanded, collaborations grew, and she started working on a solo reality project centered on rebuilding life after betrayal, not about drama, but about growth. Fans saw it as the ultimate power move, a woman taking back her narrative without ever needing to drag anyone through the mud. Kirk, on the other hand, seemed to fade further into obscurity. His few public sightings were met with awkward silence rather than outrage. People were simply over him. The internet had collectively moved on, choosing instead to uplift Rasheeda's transformation. Even fellow castmates began aligning themselves with her, praising her professionalism and strength while subtly distancing from Kirk. It wasn't just a breakup, it was a cultural shift within the Love and Hip Hop franchise itself, one that signaled the end of the old toxic storylines fans had grown tired of. For years, audiences had watched Rasheeda forgive, endure, and rebuild beside a man who repeatedly tested her loyalty. Now, they were watching her thrive without him, and it felt like closure for everyone who had ever rooted for her. The tone on social media evolved from outrage to celebration, not about the scandal, but about the woman who rose from it. Memes turned into motivational posts, and her name became synonymous with self-worth and quiet strength. Meanwhile, Kirk's absence from the spotlight only confirmed what everyone already knew. The empire was gone, and he had no role in the new narrative. Even VH1, known for capitalizing on drama, seemed to respect the shift, choosing to focus future storylines on Rasheeda's next chapter rather than the wreckage she left behind. For the first time in years, her name wasn't tied to scandal but to success. The audience had turned the page, and in doing so, they helped her close the book entirely. Rasheeda had gone from being defined by heartbreak to defining her own legacy, while Kirk's downfall faded into a cautionary tale no one cared to revisit. The world had moved on, and so had she. By the time the dust had truly settled, Rasheeda had stepped fully into what fans began calling her reinvention era, a phase marked by independence, expansion, and unshakable confidence. Gone was the woman once seen as Kirk's loyal counterpart. Now she stood as her own brand, her own powerhouse. She began collaborating with major fashion and beauty labels, launched a new women's empowerment campaign, and started hosting small business panels aimed at helping other women build financial independence after heartbreak. Every public appearance radiated calm authority. She didn't speak about the scandal, yet everything she did spoke louder than any interview ever could. Her boutique thrived, her beauty line tripled in sales, and she even began teasing a lifestyle series centered around resilience, entrepreneurship, and self-reinvention. Fans admired how she managed to turn personal pain into professional power, and her name became a trending topic for all the right reasons. Meanwhile, Kirk's presence had dwindled to near invisibility. Once a central figure on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, he was now an afterthought, appearing in random clips or fan throwbacks as a relic of the show's most dramatic years. Sources close to him admitted that he was struggling to stay relevant, trying to pitch new business ventures and even hinting at writing a tell-all book, but none of it gained traction. The public wasn't interested in his version of events anymore. They had already chosen their narrative, and Rasheeda's quiet triumph had closed the door on his redemption arc. What fascinated people most was Rasheeda's composure. She didn't weaponize her pain, didn't bash her ex, and didn't need a dramatic speech to reclaim her dignity. Instead, she showed through consistency and class that peace was the loudest revenge. Industry veterans began calling her a blueprint for rebranding, pointing out how she had shifted from reality star to respected businesswoman without ever losing her authenticity. In interviews, when asked about moving forward, she would simply smile and say, "Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself again." That line alone went viral, quoted endlessly as fans found empowerment in her evolution. Her story became more than celebrity gossip. It became a mirror for anyone who had ever been betrayed and still found a way to rise. Even the network, recognizing her new influence, began crafting projects around her transformation rather than her past, cementing her as a solo figure with longevity beyond the show. Kirk's name, on the other hand, faded into quiet irrelevance. The man who once controlled the narrative had been replaced by the woman who mastered silence. And as Rasheeda entered her reinvention era with grace and focus, it was clear that this wasn't a comeback, it was a rebirth. What began as heartbreak had evolved into legacy, proving that sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction, but elevation. Destruction, but elevation.